New era.
Black people, we've got to fight. Jean Petro, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, black people, we've got to fight. Zumbi, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, black people, we've got to fight. Yes, Sante, why you see us? Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, black people, we've got to fight. Bookman, you see us. Oh, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh,
we have to have the courage to construct our own reality. And that's what Garvey was talking about. Because he said he looked around, he didn't see what he thought should be there, and so what did he do? He didn't get depressed about it. He didn't get defeated about it. He said, I'm gonna build the government that we need to have. Ooh, where do you get that kind of boldness from? So we gotta go all the way back to Garvey, who said he would come again. He said he would be here with us, no matter how long it took. And I'm telling you that the way he comes back is in our work. Not honoring him in words, pomp and all of that stuff, but honoring him through doing what he did. How many of us have the courage to do that? The man took on the world for us and in our name. And then we come to Sodai. And in this presentation of the paradigm, I'm going to make this like what it is we want to reach. So Sodai is translated clear word in Dogana language. And I use it to mean that here we gain understanding. This is sight with understanding. And it is seeing beyond what just we think we see with this physical thing. It's seeing beyond that. And so we gain vision, because that's what vision is. With vision, you've got to be able to use the imagination informed by the African spirit. And Brother Amos, who I work very closely with, was a good friend of mine. He taught me, and he would talk about imagination. Image a nation. Do you see? But that's got to be part of vision. To be a visionary, you got to see beyond this box here. You got to see beyond the ma'afa. You got to see what is it that our people rightfully should have, and that's what Garvey did. Garvey had a vision.
New era, new transition. Greetings, this is Shakara, and it's been an honor serving you as director of gotkushTV. Over the past few years, we've brought you the pilot of the Black Root Economic Show, many seasons of Wordsmith, The Insight, and the ever popular Decipher. We have covered community events and even hosted a few of our own, including Blacktricity, as a part of the official Ghana Beyond the Return roster. We also kept you company throughout lockdown with the Quarantine Convo. After a brief hiatus, we came back with our regular weekly interactive live show, Zivanai, keeping you up to date with current events around the black world, from UK to Senegal to Haiti and beyond. It is our aim to continue to develop as a premier black media institution, and for that reason, we have a special announcement. Introducing Kimbunga Media. Between the 10th of June and the 17th of Mosiah, August, we will be transitioning to a new name and institution, Kimbunga Media. In the beautiful Kiswahili language, Kimbunga means whirlwind.
Look for me in a whirlwind or a storm. Look for me all around you. For with God's grace, I shall come back with countless millions of black men and women who have died in America, those who have died in the West Indies, and those who have died in Africa to aid you in the fight for liberty, freedom, and life.
Our name symbolizes our aim to take the media landscape by storm, developing high quality, impactful, geopolitical and cultural content aimed at empowering African people, bringing knowledge, information, inspiration and analysis from an unapologetically Pan-African, universal African nationalist and African-centered perspective. So, what can you expect? We are gradually developing a full spectrum of flagship shows and presenters, but in the immediate right here now, over the next couple years, we have two major aims in bringing you our flagship shows. One, the return of Kush Communiversity, bringing you high-level scholarship in all areas of people activity, featuring luminaries from across the black world. And two, the production of the full first season of the new and improved Ujamaa Black Group Economic Show. While we encourage you to develop and support black businesses, this show aims to raise our awareness of the political economy of today's world and popularize new solution paradigms in political economy among African people. Alongside all this, we will continue to bring you Zivanai, Jaleba, the Afrocentric perspective, All Eyes on Africa, Ghana, Democracy Under Fire, the Revolutionary Minds team with that artistic, ancestral energy, and as things grow and develop, there'll be plenty more. We also have plans to host live events and film screenings, so stay tuned for more information on that. So what can you do? Continue to support us by watching, liking, sharing and commenting on our content. Be sure to follow us on all social media, and if you are so moved, join our Patreon community. We'll be sharing flagship shows exclusively with our Patreon community before general release and granting you discounts to events and future screenings. Right now, if you become a Patreon, you will have access to the pilot for the Black Group Economic Show and all installments of last year's Black History Month series, Sankofa, The Future of Black History. At some point, we'll be engaging in community crowdfunding towards the production of the new and improved Ujamaa Black Group Economic Show, complete with offerings and perks for those who choose to invest in us. Look out for the launch, and we thank you in advance for your support. Any questions, feel free to hit us up in the comment section and we'll be sure to address. We look forward to you joining us for this new phase of our development. Stay tuned as we bring you Kimbunga Media. Ali, Tendai Mwali, be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe, Kozai, Muzimu Mokulu. We give praises unto our great ancestors. Abibi Tome, Abibi Fahodie, African power and African liberation for all African people. Greetings, brothers and sisters, and welcome to another edition of Zivanai, a beautiful word spoken in the Shona language of Zimbabwe, which simply means let us get to know each other. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters, today is Ojima Day, Tuesday, the 25th of the month they call June, and we are here once again with our open house session. Mekwitalk, hashtag Mekwitalk. We're there in the house, and as you can see, I'll share the link early. You know what I mean? I'll share the link early, brothers and sisters, so feel free if you want to come through to click the link now, or you can raise a topic in the chat. Yes, indeed, you can raise a topic in the chat by @ing gotkushTV. If you would like to ask a question in the chat, please @gotkushTV, and we will make sure that we get those questions or comments or topics raised on the panel, brothers and sisters. One brother has already clicked the link and he's here, so I'm going to get through the introduction quickly so I can engage and just raise my own topic so I can engage my brother shortly, brothers and sisters. Let me see what I go on right here now. I want to say big up to Melanated Goddess in the building. Want to big up Reparation Nation in the building, and all brothers and sisters who are locked on right about now, brothers and sisters. I ask you to please like up the video as you come through. Yes, indeed. Hit that like button, raise the energy of this universal African nationalist vibration all across the world wide web, brothers and sisters. Share the link far and wide. Share it with your brethren, your sister, your mama, your papa, your auntie, your uncle, your son, your daughter. Share the link, brothers and sisters. People have know say Shakara is live on gotkushTV, soon to be Kimbunga Media, right now and for the next couple hours. Yes, indeed. We're there. Mekwitalk. I want to let you know about some things that are coming up on the platform, brothers and sisters. First and foremost, let me let you know about Fear of a Black Republic. Yes, indeed. Our interview with Professor Dr. Leslie Alexander, which is being premiered on the 28th of June. That's this coming Friday from 8 p.m. GMT, which corresponds, sorry, that should say 8 p.m. BST. I'm going to correct that shortly, brothers and sisters. Which should say, that's British summertime, by the way. BST is British summertime, which corresponds to 3 p.m. EST, brothers and sisters, for those of our brothers and sisters across the water upon the eastern side of the other side of the Atlantic, and all those who are further west, feel free to situate yourselves from there. You don't know, kings and queens, yeah? So this is going to be important because we are delving into the history of Haiti, specifically and focusing on the 1800s, the period, during Jean-Jacques Dessalines' emperorship, following Jean-Jacques Dessalines' emperorship, and continuing throughout the 1800s, brothers and sisters, looking at some of the challenges, both internal and external, as far as the Republic of Haiti is concerned, or the Kingdom of Haiti is concerned, or the Empire of Haiti is concerned, as may be the case at different dispensations of time, brothers and sisters. Once again, 28th of June, 2024, from 8 p.m. UK time and 3 p.m. Eastern time, brothers and sisters. Do join us for that particular premiere. Yes, indeed. And then next month, on the 11th of July, we're going to be joined by our illustrious elder, Cecil Gotsmore, who will be delivering a presentation on Is Revolutionary Pan-Africanism the Praxis for African Liberation Now? Is Revolutionary Pan-Africanism the Praxis for African Liberation Now? Brothers and sisters, you don't know how it goes. When Elder Cecil comes through, there is always food for thought, knowledge, and information. And so you want to come through for that. And what I'm conscious of, brothers and sisters, is that this month is in fact, brothers and sisters, the 50th anniversary of the 6th Pan-African Congress, that took place in Tanzania. And so I'm gonna be asking Elder Cecil about that specifically. I'm not sure, because I didn't ask him, because he chose the title for this one, if he had that in mind when he chose his title, but that became apparent to me, and I was like, I should have, been that should have been on my consciousness from before, and programming should have been planned for that. So we're going to be planning. We're going to make this program a memorial for a very significant event that took place in the year 1974, which is the Pan-African Congress, or the Six Pack. Yes, the Sixth Pan-African Congress that took place in Tanzania in the year 1974, brothers and sisters. Yeah, so do stay tuned for more information on that. And big notice. Yeah, big notice. Now, this doesn't even matter where you are, but I'm going to tell you, for those who are in the UK, the call has been put out by brothers and sisters by the UNIAACLRC 2020 and the Garvey elders operating within the Garvey movement to gather on the birthday of the Prophet, the 17th of the month, called Messiah, which them call August, and drum. Bring your drums together, brothers and sisters, and raise the energy, the vibration of ourselves and our ancestors as we honor our ancestors. And so we're also going to be highlighting the call for the exoneration of the Prophet Marcus Mosiah Garvey. So, you know, now, if you're in the UK on the 17th of Mosiah, we are gathering at Windrush Square. Windrush Square, yes, over there in Brixton. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters, from 5 p.m. You don't want to miss that. So, Tinkal, bring your drum and come. Bring your tambourine. Bring your shekere. Bring your agogo. Bring your mbira. Bring your balafon. Bring whatever you have when you're in percussion. If you have a saxophone or a trumpet, feel free to bring it too. And if you don't have nothing, just bring your dancing foot. Come. Because they're going to be there in ceremony, just drumming, raising the vibration, and being around some beautiful African people for a few hours over there in Brixton. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters, from 5 p.m. Yeah. Now, anywhere you are in the world, understand why we're starting at 5 p.m. is to correspond with the 12 p.m. start time of our brothers and sisters who are on Central Time, our elders who are on Central Time in the United States of America. That is why we are starting at 5 p.m., brothers and sisters. So, anywhere you are in the world, yeah, feel free to join this vibration, join this energy. Yeah, if you have some man and woman where you know love drum, say, yeah, 17th Mosiah, August. We'll come together in the name of Marcus Mosiah Garvey and bring your drum and come and just, engage in some festivities and vibration, brothers and sisters. Yes, indeed. Raise the energy of African liberation. You don't know all the thing. Go. All right. So that's a few announcements. Let me reiterate the first one. This coming Friday, 28th of June, Fear of a Black Republic. Yes, indeed, Fear of a Black Republic. Our interview with Dr. Leslie Alexander. You don't want to miss this one. And the title is actually the title of her book. So if you do not have that book, I would encourage you to get it because it's a very important and informative title, brothers and sisters. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. All right. What we want to talk about today. So there's nothing going on in the world, There's nothing going on in the world. And by the way, brothers and sisters, I know that as far as the drums of Mosiah, there is vibes taking place in Sierra Leone. Yeah, so I'm going to share that information with you at some point as well. There's vibes taking place in Washington, D.C., and a couple other places. And so when I get all of the places between now and the 17th of Mosiah, I'll be sharing all of the places. So even if you know what you're organizing something, maybe you might want to go join the brothers and sisters and the elders them that are gathering and have already organized a thing. Yeah. So stay tuned. We're gonna give you all the information there. All right. Don't worry about nothing. Okay. So yeah. Plenty of things are going in Kenya, and you will see that we shared a report written by our brother Achola, who is a UNIA ACLRC 2020 member over there in Kenya, president of the division in Kenya, who's written an initial report on the uprisings in Kenya, and we're going to be getting more from our brother. So stay tuned, yeah, because we're going to be staying on top of the serious things that are going in Kenya right here now. The spirit of dead and Kimati rise up, let the people them, So yeah, we're going to be getting more reports, but just suffice to say that we stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Kenya. We stand with them against the neocolonial puppet regime of President Ruto and all other neocolonial puppet regimes that have plagued that nation's history from the 1960s until now. And so we hope and pray and we work towards the fruits of the uprising that is currently taking place, benefiting the masses of our people towards a vision of total liberation and unification for Africa and all African people within the context of world African sovereignty. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters, that we are fight for. So do stay tuned for more, but it's just an interesting thing I want to raise and just note and send solidarity to our brothers and sisters in Kenya. Rose to the news of the fact that the founder of WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, well, the first thing I heard is that he's going to be freed. Yeah, he's basically, no prison sentence agwan, and he's gonna be going back to Australia and Then me hear say, well, actually, what happened was he pled guilty, to one count of an espionage offense or something like that, and that's the reason why he's been let go, because basically he's been let go with time served for the amount of time that he spent locked up in the UK, behind one embassy around here. So that's an interesting development. That is an interesting development. But obviously, wherever your position on Assange himself, the dynamics of WikiLeaks and the exposure of governments of the world and their chicanery, criminal acts, and so on and so forth is a very, very interesting dynamic. And so, yeah, it shows the lengths that these governments will go to protect their power, even when their power is based upon criminality. And I should say, especially when their power is based upon a significant foundation and continuation of criminality, brothers and sisters. So we'll stay tuned for any further developments where that is concerned as well. And if there is anything specifically significant that we need to bring to you as our gotkushTV, soon to be Kimbunga media audience, we will definitely do so, brothers and sisters. One of the things that I want to talk about today, though, brothers and sisters, is I had the pleasure of joining a discussion yesterday evening my time, hosted by the brother Dynast Amir, on his channel Search for Uhuru. And the discussion was based upon this video that, it was released about half a year ago. And the title of that video is Pan-African Intellectuals Failing to Address Real Issues. Pan-African Intellectuals Failing to Address Real Issues. And Brother Dynast hosted a conversation which he billed as a response, to that particular video. The initial video was put out by a channel called Citizen Concerned, and it's run by a sister whose actual name I don't know, so forgive me for that. But she promotes basically a lot of what one might be considered to be, as far as Western political spectrum goes, she definitely sits on the economic and conservative right, it would seem, and promotes liberal stroke neoliberal economic policies, and is very hostile towards Pan-African political, economic, cultural development. And so this conversation was taking place, and I was a part of the conversation for a period of time as well. And it brought some thoughts to mind, not new thoughts to mind, but it just highlighted certain things to me, And to as a backdrop to this brief exploration that I'm about to give, brothers and sisters, I'm gonna just go to the words of the prophet, for a second, in Philosophies and Opinions of Marcus Garvey, and let's take in some words of Marcus Garvey. He says, we are living in a civilization that is highly developed. We are living in a world that is scientifically arranged, in which everything done by those who control is done through system, proper arrangement, proper organization. And among some of the organized methods used to control the world is the thing known and called propaganda. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters, Propaganda. Propaganda has done more to defeat the good intentions of races and nations than even open warfare. Repete, imse. Propaganda has done more to defeat the good intentions of races and nations than even open warfare. Propaganda is a method or medium used by organized peoples to convert others against their will. We of the Negro race are suffering more than any other race in the world from propaganda. Propaganda to destroy our hopes, our ambitions, and our confidence in self. Say, we of the Negro race, the African race, are suffering more than any other race in the world from propaganda. Propaganda to destroy our hopes, our ambitions, and our confidence in self. We listen to propaganda, 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 propaganda. And listen to propaganda, 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 propaganda. Yes, indeed, brothers and sisters, the propaganda, me say the propaganda, the propaganda, the propaganda. Propaganda, me say. The propaganda that I'm referring to today, brothers and sisters, is the propaganda that seeks to sever our connection and distort our understanding of our revolutionary leaders, particularly the revolutionary leaders who were organizing around what is referred to as the independence era. The independence era, brothers and sisters. Following the independence era, some people call it the post-colonial era. But for those of us who have revolutionary proclivities, we tend to refer to it as the neo-colonial era, brothers and sisters, because we understand it to have been largely, in spite of the best efforts of our more revolutionary leaders, movements, organizations, the era in which neocolonialism was imposed on Africa and African people, and we include the Caribbean within the framework that we are currently discussing. But look at them propaganda, 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 propaganda. Serious thing, brothers and sisters, yeah? And so what happens is that whilst we live in a world in which the dominant sensibilities of the world, politics and economics, is significantly motivated by a desire to solve the problems that became apparent during mass European War II, misnomered World War II. This era saturates Western news media, saturates Western popular culture, saturates Western political economic discourse. If you want evidence of all of the above, brothers and sisters, look at Marvel cinema, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, from Phase 1 come through Phase 4. And you will see that mass European War II and the dynamics of mass European War II is the principal running theme, thread, and foundation of the narrative. That a lot of the problems that they are trying to solve, and even some of the films, take place in the era of mass European War II. I said, saturates Western popular culture. I live in the United Kingdom of Great Britain, and one of the most significant political developments that have taken place in the last decade is that of Britain's exit from the European Union. The European Union, which was significantly established following the conclusion of Mass European War II, because it was felt that nations that are more economically integrated and aligned with each other are less likely to go to war with each other, brothers and sisters. And so during the debate that preceded the Brexit vote, a statement could be heard many times on the British news media that the European Union has presided over the longest period of peace in European history. 70 years, brothers and sisters, the longest period of peace in European history. I said that it saturates Western political, economic discourse and news media, brothers and sisters. Right, you know, war agwan between Russia and Ukraine. Right, you know, the Israeli them have waged war on Gaza, and the whole issue of Israel coming again out of Mass European War II, brothers and sisters, because the argument was that as a result of what the Jews suffered in Germany and throughout Europe, they required a homeland. For their protection. And so what is happening in that area of the world is designed to maintain and, as they would see it, protect the Jewish people with the state of Israel. I said it dominates Western political, economic discourse and news media. Ukraine and Russia. One of the significant dynamics there is the role of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, which is a military union of basically the Western world and allies of the Western world to promote and protect and defend and impose the interest of white power on the rest of the world. I should say white Western power in this regard, because a significant amount of the reason why NATO was created is because it wanted to represent a challenge to the growth and development of the Soviet Union, which is white Eastern power. Yes, the Soviet Union is white power, brothers and sisters, yeah, but they're very, very clear. The Soviet Union is certainly an example of white power. It just so happens that there are differences between white people as far as the Eastern white man and the Western white man, yeah? And that's the thing got. I said that this period dominates geopolitical, economic, and news media discourse, brothers and sisters. And so whilst a significant amount of the world's population and the global power structure as it exists is preoccupied with continuing to solve the problems that became manifest for it during that period, the same people that preserve the right to use that particular period as their flashpoint, focal point, foundation for their political, economic agenda in today's world are promoting the propaganda that seeks to sever our understanding of our revolutionary leaders in the same period. That we shouldn't look substantively at Dedan Kimati and Nomzamo Madikizela Winnie Mandela and the Osajefo Kwame Nkrumah and Papa Patrice Lumumba. That we shouldn't look at Samora Machel and Josina Machel. That we shouldn't really delve into a knowledge of Pierre Molele and the Simba and Kwilu rebellions in the Congo. That we shouldn't check and see what Mama Leonie Abbott Molele, who is still alive, is doing and was dealing with as a warrior within that rebellion. That what they were fighting for and the problems that they were trying to solve are somehow no longer relevant to I and I in this dispensation of time. Remember, I said the video name Pan-African intellectuals failing to address real issues. In fact, let me show you this for a second, just to illustrate a point. Yeah, let me show you this for a second, just to illustrate a point. Right. So what you see here is on the top is the video done by Citizen Concerned. All right, Citizen Concerned. Yeah, and as you can see, the thumbnail features Joshua Maponga, features PLO Lumumba, features Julius Nyerere, features Osajefo Kwame Nkrumah. On the bottom here, you see the video that was done yesterday, the conversation that was hosted by Search for Uhuru. And that video features Walter Rodney, Julius Nyerere, and again, Osajefo Kwame Nkrumah. So apparently, if we're taking the message implicit within this year thumbnail, or them there, plural, thumbnail, that Maponga, PLO Lumumba, not Patrice Lumumba now, but that he will be included. Julius Malema, Osajefo Kwame Nkrumah, Nyerere, Walter Rodney, were trying to solve problems or address issues that are not the real issue. Somehow, if we were to take the message implicit in these thumbnails seriously, that as far as those who agree with this narrative are concerned, when Osajefo Kwame Nkrumah was trying to fight colonialism, he wasn't addressing a real issue. Colonialism was not a real issue. When Walter Rodney was fighting against colonialism in the Caribbean and on the continent of Africa, that he was not addressing an issue that was real to African people in Africa and the continent. Sorry, and the Caribbean. The same for Julius Nyerere. When Julius Malema and the economic freedom fighters in South Africa are addressing the land issue in South Africa, apparently they're not addressing real issues. Now, Julius Malema is modern, but I'm here mostly focusing on that 60s, 70s, 80s generation. That's what the narrative is, yeah, that is being put out there, that these people. And it seems that whilst Winston Churchill, Richard Nixon, Lyndon Baines Johnson, Maggie Thatcher, and so on, the work that all of those individuals did still has relevance today because they were fighting in Mass European War II and the Cold War. Those dynamics are still relevant. The same people who lured Maggie and Reagan for what they did, and their work is still relevant. Put out the propaganda, 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 propaganda. That the work of our elders and ancestors from a similar period has no relevance to I and I. They want us to sever our tie and our link to those ancestors. Want us to sever our link to Eyusi Kwanyama, elder who was fighting in Guyana. The African Cultural Revolution in Guyana significantly was waged with this man at the helm of that particular fight. Want us to sever our ties to the Rastafari movement of the 1970s and 60s and what they were fighting for. Want us to sever our ties and our connection intellectually to our brothers and sisters in Trinidad who rose up in the 1970s, and our brothers and sisters and elders in Grenada who rose up in the 1970s. And so it seems to me that our ancestors were trying to solve problems, it's obvious, that we are yet to solve. And that there was an unfinished revolution from that time until now. But the propaganda is designed to have us discard, reject, and betray the mission that our ancestors left for us and adopt and immerse ourselves in solving the problems of white people and white nations and white power and white institutions that was set for them by them ancestors. I want to know if you don't understand what me I say, right here now. Yeah? So there seems to be a lot of propaganda, 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 propaganda. And that was just on my head, brothers and sisters. So I wanted to raise that. Kohani, you seem to have disappeared. You know what I'm saying? But right now, I'm opening up the lines. Feel free to click the link, brothers and sisters. The link is in the chat. The link is pinned to the top of the chat. If you would like to join the conversation, feel free to do so. And if you would like your comment read out, if you would like your question read out, feel free to @gotkushTV, and we will dutifully answer your question, address your comment as we see fit. I'm just raising a point there about a discussion, well, inspired in part, because I think I've raised this issue before by a conversation that I was a part of yesterday on Search for Uhuru, which is run by Brother Dynast Amir, yeah? And so, yeah, we just need to be mindful of the propaganda that seeks to have us discard the work of our ancestors, especially built up by those who are serving the interests of them own our ancestors in today's world. Feel free to join the conversation, brothers and sisters. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm there. And we'll get into some good discourse based upon whatever you raise. You can obviously feel free to embellish upon what I have myself raised, and or you can raise your own points. Yeah. Whilst you're coming through, whilst you're typing your questions or getting ready to click that link, which is in the chat right about now, let me just continue to look a piece upon this something here. And as and where somebody comes through, I will pause, to take the listener, the viewer. You would be forgiven, and this actually came out in the conversation yesterday, for believing that the ancestors of that era who fought, some of whom who died, didn't achieve anything. You'll be forgiven for thinking that they actually did nothing, because their legacies are so often couched in the language of failure, that they didn't achieve anything, which is factually incorrect. None of them were perfect. None of them were without their flaws, and none of them didn't meet challenges, some of which they overcame, some of which they didn't overcome, brothers and sisters. But to couch their entire legacy as failure is little more than propaganda. Propaganda, 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 propaganda. So we're here as gotkushTV, soon to be Kimbunga Media, to challenge the propaganda. Propaganda,
Propaganda.
propaganda, propaganda. Yeah, and that's how the thing
Propaganda.
go.
That's
That's
the
right.
way.
Indeed, my brother. Greetings, Mr. IC3. Where I say?
Yes, you're right, man. People don't understand that the real power is in the propaganda, being able to control the narrative,
That's right.
being able to control the story. So it's
Yes,
not
sir.
about the guns and the planes, you know. It's all about the propaganda, because even if you have the guns, the planes, the ships, the warplanes, and they need, because even if 2 of your soldiers die, you have to
Yes.
be able to give a good explanation why they were fighting in that foreign place and killing those other people. Why
Yes, sir.
did my son or my cousin have to die? What was you fighting for? So if the propaganda is not there, and the people see that their family members are dying as a result of a stupid war, then the system starts to collapse from inside. So I support you on the idea of the importance of the propaganda. It's got to
Yes, sir.
give the moral justice for
I say.
for whatever they're doing. Yeah, so
I say.
I just wanted to say this and hear your response. There's all this fuss going on about the BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and more people are joining this coalition to try and defeat the West and the dollar, the hegemony or the power of the dollar. And so my position is that they will fail.
That
Why?
BRICS is gonna fail.
That's right. That's right. They're going to crash.
Okay.
Why? Because the power of the dollar is fundamentally based on white power, white supremacy. So if you're going up against white supremacy, well, they're going up against the dollar, but they're not saying they're going up against racism or anti-Africanness, anti-black Africanness. So they're trying to resist the dollar, but they're still maintaining their anti-African position. So I'm saying, no, they're not going to make it. Because they're not going up against white power. What do you think of that?
It's difficult to say. I don't believe that BRICS is in and of itself a silver bullet, to Western hegemony. I don't believe that is to be the case. And that's looking at it not even just in relation to African people. I think that when you look at Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, all of those nations, to varying different degrees, are tied into Western power and Western economics, to a significant degree, and to varying different degrees. Some from relative positions of power. I would put China in that category, and others from absolute positions of weakness. And I would put South Africa in that particular category. And by the way, brothers and sisters, our show looking at the dynamics of what have just taken place in South Africa is coming. So do stay tuned. The only reason why I'm not delving into it in these conversations is because I'm going to get into it in depth with one of our brothers and sisters, or a couple of our brothers and sisters from Azania, South Africa. So do stay tuned. Now, and by the way, when it comes to Brazil is not going to fight white power, because Brazil is a bastion of white power to a significant degree. India is not going to fight white power because its society is also significantly based on a certain kind of white power dynamics, properly referred to as the caste system. Greetings, brother Kuhani, I'm coming to you. South Africa is not going to fight white power because white people in South Africa still dominate 80% of the economy and the arable land. Yeah. So no, BRICS is not going to fight white power to that degree. The nation within BRICS that has the best chance of representing a significant challenge, and is in fact representing a significant challenge to white power on the economic front, is China. And China has a very big military as well, right? Which is, and it has a nuclear arsenal, which is one of the reasons why it is able to represent some kind of a threat. And the Western world is aware of this because of the extent to which it has ramped up a trade war against China. Yeah, in relation to tariffs. Joe Biden recently put out a tweet in which he said that he has just passed. I'm not sure if it's passed laws. I'm not sure if that's the right way to characterize it, but he has just written into the American economic policy that they're raising tariffs on a certain number of goods coming from China. For those who don't know what tariffs are, it means that basically, in basic terms, for another nation to export their goods and have them sold in your nation, you charge them a fee, yes, for the privilege. And what the figure that stands out for me is that he has put 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles, which means, this is what this means in real terms, yeah, that if a Chinese vehicle costs, a Chinese electric vehicle costs 250,000. For it to be sold in America and for the American population to buy it, they're going to be charged at least 500,000. Yeah, that's what that means. That's what 100% tariff means. It literally means that you're basically doubling the price, yeah, of the thing. All right, and there are a number of other tariffs that he's placed on the thing, and that actually started under his predecessor, Donald Trump, and he's continued the trade war. And so evidently, because of the rise of China economically, America and Europe, as you know, they have designated in institutions like the G7 and the G8, consider China to be an economic threat. However, the extent to which those powers are going to be actually what they call a decoupling, as in severing their relationship, is probably very, very minimal, because China is a playground for Western corporations in relation to labor. And because of that, the Chinese economy receives a certain level of investment, so to speak, from foreign corporations in relation to its economy. Yeah. So I doubt the extent to which BRICS represents a threat, in my humble opinion, is going to be based upon the political aspirations of China in particular. And China generally plays a very diplomatic game on the global stage. I think if you mess with it, then you're going to find out what it's really about, but they generally don't speak in the language of war, in terms of the military front. Although when they're ready, they will let you know that, yeah, any boy tests, ready for you, no? Yeah, their military displays are is their evidence of the fact that, you know, they if you want that smoke, they'll be ready to get it to you. You know what I mean? You got. I give you one more reply, but and then I'm gonna go to the brother Kohani.
That's all right. Go to brother Kohani.
Okay, go ahead, Kohani.
Tenel Murray, everybody. What's up?
Tenel Murray, my king. How you doing?
No, right. You know, I just made my BB2Me account, and I interviewed Okudini Talawa Adodo on Black nationalism and the dangers of communism on Black movements. And we did it on Paradigm Shift 314 yesterday. It was an excellent show. It's very informative. You know, talking about the Comintern and how they were really fighting for the mindset of not only the African American intelligentsia during the Cold War,
Mm-hmm.
but also the African intelligentsia during the
Absolutely.
Cold War.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, especially in the black community, we don't like to talk about how, the reason why most of us profess Marxism, Leninism is because a lot of people in the civil rights era were Marxist Leninists. And
Mm-hmm.
we pointed out the Eurocentric mindset a lot of these individuals had towards African culture.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Sorry, did you want my comment on that? Or sorry,
Yeah,
I
go
watched
ahead,
that.
go ahead, go ahead.
All right,
Let's
okay.
let's
No,
get
no,
into
yeah,
it.
no, absolutely. The issue with Marxism, Leninism, etc. Is manifold as far as African people is concerned. First is the historiography, the historical analysis, the historical foundation, which is based upon European developments in European society and European culture, and principally the idea that your class, yeah, which is in many ways, as far as the Marxist analysis is concerned, the unique development within Western and European civilizations, is the primary indicator of your politics, or should be at least the primary indicator of your geopolitical interest. Yeah. And so when it buck up on African people, what happened was that Africans beginning a self-determined movement on the basis of our own historiography were met with hostility because our movement was considered to be a contravention of the interest of the communist movement based upon the idea of workers of the world unite. And the communist movement wanted black bodies, particularly in the United States of America, particularly on the African continent, because it needed a certain critical mass, and they saw African people as key contributors to them developing that critical mass. But within doing so, they were unable to deal with the cultural demands of African people, the racial experiences of African people, and how that contributed to us developing a movement in our own interest. This is manifested by the Garvey movement. And the communists had a problem with the Garvey movement principally because of the fact that the majority of his following, or the majority of the members of the UNIAACL, were made up of what would be referred to in communist parlance as workers and peasants. And so because they were trying to acquire and attract and seduce the workers and the peasants, Garvey was a significant impediment to those aspirations. Yeah. The other factor here, though, is that Papa Garvey himself said that the reason why we should not get wrapped up in the communist movement and the Communist International is because of the fact that communism, as far as it being a European creation designed to solve the problems of certain classes of white people in Europe, presumes to place power in the hands of a white working class that has yet to overcome its hatred of African people. And so it would be folly for us to wrap ourselves in the communist flag, knowing that they are unable to overcome that particular aspect of European culture and white Western imperialism in that regard. So that issue then manifested itself in terms of the movement during the Cold War, which was the so-called independence movement, yeah, which to varying different degrees was a revolutionary movement on the one hand and a neo-colonial movement on the other.
Ooh, let me add real quick, right? Just a tad. So, what's interesting is yeah, it was a revolutionary movement and then it was a communist movement. It's interesting because I was listening to a documentary on Ho Chi Minh. He's like my favorite. He's one of my favorite revolutionaries of all time.
Absolutely.
Vietnamese historians have already pointed out, and they've came to grips with the fact that the Comintern was just using the Vietnamese as, numbers, right?
100%.
But when I look at African Americans who profess to be socialist Marxists today, they still cannot grapple with that. But the Vietnamese can grapple with the fact that they were used as numbers, but we can't grapple with that.
I think there's nuance there. I think that in my experience, there are a lot of Africans who profess socialism, particularly those who would openly call themselves communist are generally a bit more what's the word, allegiant to Lenin and Trotsky in particular. Those two in particular. Those who self-identify as socialists, there's a lot more variation among them. And some would see the contradictions of the Soviet Union and the power that it wielded and the power that it tried to wield in terms of determining the destinies and the political objectives and the interests of African people. There are many who would in fact see that. Yeah, there are many socialists who are not Marxists, for example. Yeah, and whereas agree or disagree with them, you have to take the truth of their pronouncements or the reality of their pronouncements into consideration. Yeah. So yeah, I have a varied spectrum of experiences where that is concerned. What I would say, however, is that for those of us who get ultra Marxist, there's a greater degree to which those who learned and adopted some elements of Marxist analysis in other cultures were better able to synchronize it with their own culture and not adopt it wholesale, or attempt to adopt it wholesale without taking their own specific conditions and cultural inclinations into consideration. I think that there is a deficit of that among African people, partly because we have been put through a particular process of deculturalization that other people have not been put through. And so the process for us restoring dignity, pride, and then functionality to our culture is taking a bit longer than it should, because of our unique historical experiences. But we are, or many of us are in the process of doing that at the moment. I will say this, that we also need to be, and this is why I say it's very important to know and understand what those revolutionary leaders were doing and dealing with. Because from an African-centered point of view, from a Pan-Africanist, nationalist point of view, when we say, for example, that we don't need to adopt Marxism, we need to come from our own cultural foundation, it would be folly of us and dishonest of us to not recognize where even some of our ancestors who profess socialism attempted to do just that. And we may disagree with some of their conclusions, or we may go further with some of the analysis. But I would never negate Amilcar Cabral, for example, and his work in terms of national liberation and culture, and the extent to which he placed African culture as the central dynamic of an African liberation fight. Never deny what the Asante for Kwame Nkrumah attempted to do with conscientism, for example, and his analysis and application of African culture within that regard, even though I disagree with some of his conclusions. Yes, but what he was attempting to do, yes, has value, and we should attempt to understand it for what it is and then critique it from the basis of that understanding.
Me and Talawa, we talked about Nkrumah yesterday in the interview. And people that were in the YouTube back chat of the show that I was on, some people didn't like it, but when you check out I'll try to see if I follow you on Facebook. I'll shoot it to you, the interview me and Talawa did.
Yeah, thanks. Let's
but
see
we
it.
talked about Nkrumah and how he was.
Yeah, no. Nkrumah had his contradictions. As I've said many times on this platform, would have much preferred if Nkrumah went to Congo to find himself a wife. You know, I think that would have worked out better for the brother. You know, in many different ways. I think that it would have went a longer way to cement in certain levels of unity between actual African people. And I also believe that Nkrumah's attempt to negate. Sorry, Kohania, I'm getting some background noise from you. So for the sake of quality control, I'm going to mute you while you're not speaking. Give facts. Yeah. Whilst Nkrumah was brilliant in many ways, and whilst I believe he was honest, and whilst I believe his foresight in terms of being able to identify the forces of neocolonialism in their very early stages is something that we need to pay close attention to. And I'm going to go as far as to say any critique of Nkrumah needs to come within the context of appreciating what I have just said. Like, if you don't properly appreciate the book Neocolonialism, the last stage of imperialism, then I believe that your critiques of Nkrumah are going to be deficit to requirement. That said, his major flaw was attempting to make socialism a universal, when socialism is, especially as defined within the Marxian tradition, is entirely Eurocentric. Yeah. And so he disagreed with many others who defined as socialist, who wanted to create specific African expressions of it. Yeah. And I think that was his major ideological flaw, in my humble estimation.
Interesting. Yeah. So how would you have done it different if you was in Nkrumah's position? What would you?
So another point, right, which is I'm very slow I'm very slow to criticize, yeah, any of our leaders, even the ones that I disagree with, yeah, significantly. I have my convictions, I have my ideological convictions, but what I try to do first, and this is about being humble, yes. What I try to do first is understand the problems that they were trying to solve within the context that they were trying to solve it. Yeah. There are many things that Nkrumah did that I would have continued to do. I would have continued to try and develop unity across different borders, the Ghana, Guinea, Mali Union, secret, agreement with Congo, etc., etc. I would not have gone to Egypt to marry an Arab woman under the pretense of.
But what would you have done? What would you have done?
I'm explaining. I'm explaining. I've said some of the things that I would have done. So I would not have done that. I've said some of the things I would have done. I would not have gone to Egypt. I would have gone to Congo. Yeah, right. That's one thing I would have done. All right.
Okay.
Right, you know what I'm saying, as far as the wife thing is concerned, and bearing in mind, so just to explain for those who are not aware of this, Nkrumah married an Arab woman from Egypt, and that was a political marriage. Yeah, it was political marriage based upon trying to unite the African continent and develop some relationship between the African and Arab inhabitants. Yeah, I believe that was a mistake. I would have tried to organize the Africans in Africa. Yes, I would have, which he did do to some degree, but I think I would have increased this, reached out to the African diaspora. I would have used and tried to use the indigenous governance systems more. And I say that with a caveat. I say that with the caveat of knowing that to a significant degree, colonialism relied upon co-opting the indigenous governance systems. Yeah. And so because of that, there were some challenges that the more revolutionary leaders faced with indigenous governance systems that remained allegiant, or elements of them that remained allegiant to white power in that regard. Yeah. So again, like I said to you, I'm slow to critique, yeah, as many of our, especially our more progressive revolutionary leaders of that period. But I'm critiquing Nkrumah on the basis of the ideological shortcomings as far as I'm concerned. So I would have developed heavily an African centered or an indigenized economic system based upon not imposing a Marxist analysis on the African situation, but galvanizing the best of the knowledge systems and wisdom traditions of the indigenous people and organizing those into a political economy. Yeah. Now, the issue with that is go ahead, Kohani.
Professor Clark, when he was in because he was in Ghana, he was a mentor to Nkrumah, by the way, when he was in the Harlem History Club.
Mm-hmm.
Clark had talked about in a lecture when he talked about Ghana that Nkrumah should have listened to Dankwa, because
Yeah,
Dankwa had told him.
I disagree with Clark on Baba Clark on that, because Dankwa was allegiant to, again, white power. Yeah. So like that. So when this is the point I'm making, right? So a lot of the people that were intellectuals of that time and so on and so forth, yeah, were not better than Nkrumah because they were critical of Nkrumah. You see what I'm saying? I know the statement that you're making. I think Baba Clark credited Danko with a certain level of intelligence, and I agree that he was a very intelligent intellectual, but his politics were very, very white. Yeah, very, very white. So I disagree with Baba Clark on that. I don't believe that Dankwa would have represented a positive addition to the revolutionary political agenda that was on the stream at that time. That's my humble estimation. Then just to continue answering your question, Mr. IC3. Yeah. So there are what was I up to? I was saying about the indigenous governance systems. I would have tried to form and he did this to some degree, but I think I would have made it a bit more explicit in terms of bringing the indigenous governance systems more into the government of the country. Yeah. And empowering them to empowering the indigenous communities, yes, more in relation to decision-making processes on the national level. Yeah. So yeah, those are things that I would have done, and my answers to you are based upon what my critiques are. So I'm not answering you based upon the things that I'm not critiquing. I'm not critiquing, for example, the number of hospitals and schools that Nkrumah built. I would have done that as well. I'm not critiquing his challenges to Western hegemony. I'm not critiquing the attempt to build the Akosombo Dam. Yeah, I would have done all of those things. Yeah. My answers are specific to what I would do. Yeah, what I'm critiquing him on.
So if I understand what you're saying, so Nkrumah saying marrying that non-African, that Egyptian, you understood it to be a political move. So
no,
somehow
it's not my understanding. It's a historical fact. It's known that that's what he was doing. Yeah.
You right. So in what way would you have dealt with white power? So I understand how you're saying you would have organized African relations and indigenous systems better, but how would you have dealt with the white man and the white power? What angle?
I think and again I'm this is a slow criticism, yeah, but I think this critique is difficult, yeah, because again you have to understand the circumstances of the time. Brother Delani, I see you, by the way. Yeah, so may I come to you? Who just dropped off? Oh, Kohani. What am I saying now?
It's a tough one.
One of the things, no, it is, and to a significant degree, I would have done a lot of things similar. Yes, So the things that I would have done similar is trying to build African unity across borders, yeah, and developing those geopolitical alliances that didn't respect colonial borders. I think that was a good thing.
Yes.
I think you're right. I think that the attempt to develop an ideological institute and educate people about African liberation and what it's going to take, and concept of neocolonialism, which was very new at the time.
Hold up, point there. I'm asking you, what when you sit at the table with the white man on the other side, what is your angle? I understand everything you're saying. In order to unify,
I'm coming to that. Hold on, I'm coming to that because what you have to understand is that part of the problem is that one of the things that, because Nkrumah as an individual was not going to fight the entirety of the white world. It wasn't going to happen. Right? That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And a part of the problem was, in the final analysis, there were not enough people that were and movements strong enough to do that. Yeah. And so developing that power base was imperative. Yeah, it's necessary. So before we sit at the table with the white man, we have to be representing some kind of power. Yeah. And so before we get to the table, we have to build the power among ourselves. That is the point I'm making. And there are many things, right? And there are many things that Nkrumah was trying to do at that time that I understand what he was trying to do, and I would have done things similar. Right. Now, another thing that he also did was put out the propaganda about neocolonialism. Yes. To educate not just the people in Ghana, but the entirety of the black world about what these people were doing. Yes. You have to have propaganda that educates your own people about the machinations of these devils. Yeah. And again, I believe that his book on the subject is very, very important work.
Yes.
When I sit at the table now, I believe in hindsight, and I understand why he did it, but signing a deal, for example, with Kaiser Aluminium, to build the Akosombo Dam, in the final analysis was something that came back to bite him in the backside. Yeah. And for those who are not aware of what I'm talking about, the Akosombo Dam project was basically a project to develop hydroelectricity as a major energy source in Ghana in the 1960s. Yeah. And the project was thwarted because, well, it was hampered at various different levels, partly because Ghana didn't have the money, yes, to invest in the project. And so it went to, the Minister of Finance went to the West to get investment, and that investment came in the form of Kaiser Aluminium. And Kaiser Aluminium basically imposed policies on the thing designed for it not to achieve what Nkrumah wanted it to achieve, but for it to serve Fidem interest in terms of expanding American corporate influx into the African continent. And once the dam was finished, they overthrew Nkrumah, not Kaiser Aluminium as just themselves, but the American government, yeah, overthrew Nkrumah, took control of the dam, and the dam basically, to this day, is not producing the kind of electricity that it should be producing, as a result of the change in political and economic system. So yeah, I think that with hindsight, we can say that some of those agreements were flawed in the final analysis.
Okay, I want Brother Delani to speak, but I just want to leave this. Your position is that you need to build African. Nkrumah should have built Africa first before going to the table with the white man. I understand that position.
I'm not quite saying that, because it was impossible not to go to the table with the white man. You're fighting a anti-colonial war. The white man is there.
That's right. Right. He's already at the table.
He's there. Right. Yeah. No. But what I'm saying, but I'm answering your question in terms of what I would have done. Right. So I'm saying there are many things that he did that I would have done. So Nkrumah spent a lot of time trying to build African power base, yeah, based upon allegiance and alliance to a Pan-African vision across borders. That is what the Ghana-Guinea-Mali Union was about. So developing a union of African states, beginning with and the problem was that Mali and Guinea were the only ones in West Africa who were willing to do it. Why? Because the rest of West Africa was either dominated by the French or dominated by America or dominated by Britain. So all of these nations never decolonized at the same time at the same rate. Yeah. So it's a difficult environment that he's operating in. The point I am making is that why I'm emphasizing the slow to critique is because I want the viewers to understand the context that I'm speaking to, not just answer your question, if that makes sense. Yeah, outside of its context. Yeah, if in order to answer the question properly, ones and ones have to understand the challenges at hand. What was the circumstances at the time? I would say in hindsight, I may not have signed that deal with Kaiser Aluminium, but I understand why he thought he had to. Yeah, because of the circumstances that he was dealing with, because of the challenges that he was dealing with. And he felt that once the dam was built, he would be in a stronger position to impose demands on the situation that he wasn't in at that time. Yeah, Kaiser's fear was that when the dam was built, at some point, Nkrumah was going to nationalize the mine and take it out of their hands, and they wouldn't be able to profit from it anymore. And they were bloody right. That was a sound fear on their part, yeah, because that's exactly what I imagine he would have done. And so, in Nkrumah's mind, his thing is, all right, I'm going to compromise on this now in order to acquire back this power at a later point, and that never worked out, yeah, for all kinds of different reasons, principally because of the fact that he was overthrown, yeah, in the year 1966, yeah. And that is another part of the propaganda is that when our brothers and sisters talk about the what went wrong and the failures of quote unquote failures of these people, they tend to leave out the levels of sabotage. Yeah. Now, bearing in mind that these are all underdeveloped nations, underdeveloped because they're coming out of colonialism. There are no nations that ended colonialism rich and wealthy, right? Colonialism is a system of impoverishing the people of the nation and the nation itself. Yeah. So we have to be clear about that. All right. And so colonized nations come into independence at a deficit. They are already not on equal terms with the rest of the world as far as the colonial world is concerned, as far as the colonizers are concerned. Yeah. And so we have to understand those challenges. And most of us don't understand those challenges. And so when Nkrumah is overthrown, we give the white man diplomatic immunity. Yeah, we protect the white man from criticism. Yeah, and say, well, Nkrumah failed. And that narrative is to defend white people and white nations, my brothers and sisters. All right. Brother Delani, Brother Kukani, where you on go? Most
right now.
Yes, give thanks, my brother. Greetings.
Greetings, my brother, and greetings, IC3. I wanted Kohini. I wanted him to stay on. You know, I was enjoying that interaction. And greetings, everyone. Greetings in the honorable spirit of our great and mighty African ancestors. I want to say, Shakara, your analysis is very solid. I think those nuances you pointed out are fair. I think those observations are quite valid. You know.
Sorry, Brother Delani. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you here, but I did mean to answer a question in the chat. Can I pause you for a second? Because the question was asked a while ago. Yeah, and I want to respect the chat. Yeah, so forgive me.
All right.
What's it called? Meloman says, gotkushTV, who retards the movement more, left or right Pan-Africans?
Very
Left
interesting.
or right Pan-Africans? First of all, I think that the left-right paradigm in and of itself retards the movement. Yeah, I think we need to break out of the left-right paradigm. I disregard the left-right paradigm. Yeah, and we need to develop. If we want a left-right paradigm, we should have our own left-right paradigm. Right. That's my conviction from the beginning. The fact that we defined Pan-Africanism along the course of a spectrum, a political spectrum that is defined by the development of Western Europe and the interest of different classes within Western Europe is a problem that we need to overcome. This is my humble estimation. Having said that, I don't know to the extent that left Pan-Africans are maintain a revolutionary edge and right Pan-Africans do not. To that extent, I would say that the right tends to retard more because of its allegiance to white power in the form of the dominant white power. Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be fair to say. I think that the left retards more in the context of when there's a strong Russia, yeah, you know, that extent of white, they find it difficult to not be seduced by the strength of a strong white Eastern Bloc. Again, nuance there. Having said that, wows, though there were many who were allegiant to Russia and so on and so forth, there were many who were not. There were many who were socialist, but not Soviet in their inclination. That's why the Africans in the Caribbean and on the continent were among the leaders of what is called the non-aligned movement. We're not aligned with Western Europe or Eastern Europe. We're charting our own course. Yeah. And some of those people were socialists, but they didn't believe that socialism, them being socialists, required them to be allegiant to Lenin, Trotsky, and Stalin. Stalin in particular, because Stalin was the one that was leading for the majority of the period of that revolutionary period. Yeah. So I hope I've answered your question right there. So the right, especially now, I will say this also, that when you say right Pan-Africans tend not to be Pan-Africans at all. Yeah. When I say that, what I mean is they've co-opted the term Pan-African and language of Pan-Africanism and they're coating neocolonialism in Pan-African garms. Yeah. And that is what is happening today a lot of the time. So people are using the terminology Pan-Africanism, but really they're just neocolonialist, faking the funk. Yeah. Thank you, Brother Delani, for holding out there. Go ahead, my brother.
Respect, man. I always appreciate love your analysis. You do pay attention to the nuances, and that is very important in analyzing our history, because no movement is perfect. No movement is without contradictions. No movement is without mistakes along the way. But
Of
we
course.
learn. I particularly like your reference to the indigenous cultural systems that were pre-colonial that we could have addressed. But I think, though, in hindsight, it is a double edge, because even though starting fresh give you an opportunity to start with your culture, with the indigenous aspects of the culture, um, because of the level of awareness generally, probably now would be better suited to bring those type of institutions forward into implementation, because of the maturity, because of the development that we have accomplished over the last 50, 60 years, which make the facilitation of those institutions even better. I juxtapose now to then. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, would I would have liked to see that happen? Yes. Um, but that was my only nuance when I look at that period, you
Yeah.
know, because of the level, or the damage that was done from enslavement, from colonization. We were significantly weakened, tremendously weakened.
Absolutely.
So, and even the move towards the Eastern Bloc for support, though I think those were out of necessity, to be honest with you,
No,
because
absolutely. Sorry, go
yeah,
on.
yeah, because of the onslaught, and I know the word you don't use a lot is capitalism and imperialist forces.
Yeah.
I know you use whiteness cover that, but for the audience sake, the forces of capitalism were the forces of colonialism. and they were hell bent on
Absolutely.
exploiting
Absolutely.
the
Absolutely.
the
Go on, brother. Leader.
go
Sorry.
ahead.
Go.
Yeah,
No,
the,
go.
the,
Finish
the,
your point.
the, the, yeah, the mission for them was to exploit, extract as much value out of the African continent as possible.
Absolutely.
And they were superiorly organized and
Absolutely.
superiorly weaponized against
Absolutely.
us.
Absolutely.
For our
Absolutely.
own survival, we had to get help or assistance from any source
Absolutely.
possible at the time. You know what I'm saying? So
No, one hundred
in
percent.
those are some of the nuances there, some of the dynamics that we have to face with. Now, I wish that is it Kohani? Am I pronouncing it right? The young brother. I know. I remember him from Saletta.
Yes.
Kohani. He changed his
Mm.
name now to an African name, which is brilliant. I love that. Um, yeah, I noticed there's a reoccurring sentiment in his analysis because he's been on your platform before,
Hmm.
and it seems to be probing into that communism, socialism relation with the liberation movement. So I wanted to know where was he going with that emphasis? Is he developing anti-communist, anti-socialist vibes in favor of what a more capitalistic approach, or I wanted to find out
Yeah.
where was he going with
Okay.
his probing, because sometimes this probing leads to other things. They really, symptomatic of some other underlying motivation that
Right.
sometimes
Right.
we can dig down so we can get
I
to
take your point.
why the emphasis.
I can't answer for the brother. What I can
Right,
say
right. That's
though,
what I'm saying. I'm sorry he
yeah,
gone. I'm
no,
sorry he
no,
left.
no, no, yeah. I'm sorry. I will put a call out to the brother to come back and answer that question if he so wishes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I can say is that
Yes.
he has shared that he has been through what he would consider a communist indoctrination of his own, and so he's breaking out of that
Oh,
to some degree.
okay.
In a
Okay. So
Pan
that
what I
can add
can
to it.
say,
Yeah.
what I
I
can
mean,
say is that what I
mhm,
can say is I can speak to some degree for Dr. Talawa,
mhm,
who would not advocate a capitalist model at all. Yeah, and so to the
mhm,
extent that Brother Kohani is interacting with Dr. Talawa, and
mhm.
if those sensibilities are aligned, then I would imagine that he would have a similar position on that. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me come back to your point though about the Soviet Union and the resources provided by the Soviet Union, and it's an important point that you're making. Again, that's why I say you have to deal with the nuances and understand the context of the history, because a lot of the time
Correctly.
these
Correct.
people, our ancestors, are fighting colonialism, and a lot of the time those colonial resistance manifested themselves in armed resistance. No African country or
Correctly.
nation or colonized nation was manufacturing arms or had significant arms, so they had to get arms from somewhere, and oftentimes they got
Correct.
arms from China or Russia. The issue that we
Mhm,
have is not necessarily the arms that we got from China or Russia. It's the extent to which we felt we had to adopt Chinese or Russian ideology along with the
mhm.
arms. That's my only critique, right? But look
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
and give me a second. But then
Right.
when we look at even the extent to which a lot of the leaders were pro Russia in particular or pro China, a lot of that is even propaganda. And the reason why I can say that is because even if when you look at Papa Patrice Lumumba, because the reason why that propaganda is invested heavily in is because allegiance to Russia or alliance with Russia in Western geopolitics is a
Mhm.
justifiable reason for white
Yeah.
Western power intrigue. Yeah,
Yes.
invasion,
Mhm.
overthrow your
Yes.
government, and they had invested
Assassination. Mhm,
right all them thing there, and they had
mhm,
invested significantly in the propaganda against the Soviet Union that justified them
mhm,
meddling in other people's nations based upon even the mere
mhm,
inference of Soviet influence
mhm.
on them. Yeah, they
Right.
did the same with Garvey. They had Papa Garvey under
Mhm,
surveillance based upon a supposed connection to Soviet Russia.
Right.
And they did it
Right.
with every movement from that time until now, even though Russia is not Soviet no more. Right?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Right? So
Exactly.
what happened was, the best example of this is probably Patrice Lumumba. The Belgians invade the country, send thousands of troops in the country. Lumumba don't have the troops to fight a Belgian invasion. So Lumumba says, here I know, America, beg you come deal with your bridging over here, so. If I invade up the country, I'm going to want to run you. Beg you come round here and send out the people them where I deal with. America comes in because its corporations have interest in Congo and defend Belgium them. The UN, dominated by America, does nothing. So Russia offers its assistance. Lumumba takes the meeting. Because now him take the meeting, he becomes a Soviet. Based upon the propaganda of America.
You took the word out my mouth. Based on the propaganda. Exactly.
And that creates the justification for American intelligence to invest in the assassination of Papa Patrice Lumumba.
Yes.
Yes? That's what happens. Yeah? So again, remember I said, the first people that he went to was the Americans. The second people that he went to was the United Nations. Said, I beg you come help me with this problem here, because the colonizer wants to try to recolonize up the nation. And Uno say, Uno is the bastion of the land of the free and the home of the brave. Uno say, Uno they have to deal with human rights and democracy and all them things there. Beg you help me deal with this thing over here. So. And they both rejected him. The same thing happened.
And as well to Thomas Sankara.
I'm gonna come to I'll explain the Thomas Sankara thing in a second. I want to explain Nkrumah.
Yes.
Nkrumah was willing to do business with the Americans.
Okay.
Never had a problem with it. That's why Kaiser ended up in Ghana with the aluminium. He wanted Kaiser to use Ghana's bauxite. Kaiser created some excuse for say them can't use Ghana bauxite because it's high grade enough. So them go for the high grade bauxite where this is near colonial. In a Jamaica, them go for the high grade bauxite. In a Jamaica. This is near colonialism, Kaiser said it can't use the bauxite from Ghana because it's not high grade enough. So them use the bauxite when they have access to based upon neo-colonial arrangements in Jamaica to import that bauxite to Ghana for use for the Akasombo Dam. Yes? But what happened is, whilst Nkrumah is working with Kaiser, the corporation, and the American government, he's realizing that the CIA is operating in the nation on behalf of the American government, and that American corporations are connected to the CIA, and they are trying to sabotage his nation and his economy in the interest of American corporations and the American government. So now Nkrumah said, well, hold on. Then him get closer to China based upon now what America, the sabotage that America is actually operating in his nation. He gets closer to China and him get closer to Russia. And that becomes now the reason for the propaganda against Nkrumah.
What do you think he could have countered that? What in what way could, if you was in that situation, how would you deal with that?
Now, here's my answer to you, IC3. My answer is genuinely, I don't know. Yeah?
There's very little that could be cool. There's very few options available.
I don't know.
During that time.
Because listen,
but what would you do, Brother Delani?
One second. The one thing that Nkrumah needed was a stronger African revolutionary movement. And the context of the time, not enough of us were that. If a lot of the French-speaking nations in West Africa were less inclined to be neo-colonial, I think the situation would have been different. Yeah,
I think that the only thing that could have turned the tides at that time is if they was able to organize a military command, all African military command of some sort, a
But
few
that's what he was
United
trying to do,
African countries.
Imani. That's what he was trying to
Yes,
do. Yeah, that is what Nkrumah
yeah,
was trying to
that was
do,
the only. Yes,
right?
that's the only way he could have had any type
The
of way
point
to,
is,
tip
right?
the
The
ball
point is that
in his
what he
favor.
needed to do, is what he was trying to do. Yeah, in that
Exactly.
regard, on that front, at the
Yeah,
very
yeah,
least.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
but
That,
the
see,
situation and the
that's
context
the
of
way I would have
what
went
happened.
down, and still he ran into difficulty there. But that was the only path that could have showed us a semblance of success, or even to protect the success that was made at the time.
Right, that's the reality of the situation. There are some things
Yeah.
when it comes to the situations and the challenges that our ancestors were faced with. I don't know what I would have done much differently, because some of them situations
Exactly.
were very impossible. Yeah, and you have to be humble
Yeah.
when you're studying history. Yes, especially as a
Yes.
revolutionary, especially as an organizer, you have
Yes.
to be humble in the face of the ancestors that you're studying. Yeah,
That's
no,
correct.
me no face,
That's correct,
me
my
no
brother.
face and me greater than Nkrumah and Garvey and Winnie Mandela. Yeah, and me no face and me greater than them. You know, I want to know that. Yeah, I can
Because
learn from them.
they faced insurmountable odds at the time. So we have
Exactly,
to just, analyze them within that context, and
exactly,
and the nuances is the key here. You know what I'm saying? The
exactly,
nuances and the difficulty. We have to appreciate the difficulty of the time. See,
right,
now we kind of got a cushion now. We can philosophise now. We can do a lot of
right,
things now. But them
right.
things, them time there, it was life and death literally. Every move you make have to be calculated.
That's right.
Exactly.
You
You know
know?
what I'm saying?
So
So yeah, that's
yeah,
that
So
for
yes.
me.
do you
I
think?
will not play the
Okay.
game.
So based on what you were saying, okay. So
Mm-hmm.
Belgium coming in. So you said he calls for America and United Nations to
Mm-hmm.
put a check on what
Yep,
Belgium were doing.
yep.
So, and then
But the white people
America,
stick to white
United
people. Them
Nations.
come and defend the white people. Them.
Yeah. Okay, but let's play with some maneuvers here. So we can expect that America and United Nations would support Belgium. They're not going to tell them off. So
We can
therefore,
expect, but yes and no, I see free. Bear this in mind. Yeah, bear this in mind that the propaganda of America at the time was that it was supporting the anti-colonial movement on the continent. That was its propaganda at the time. Yes, and Omowale Malcolm X went there in 1964, when the OAU met in Cairo. Yes, and said to the people, them, listen, oh no, don't be seduced by America and them sweet words when them come around here. He said, don't get rid of European colonialism only to become a victim of American dollarism. Yeah, is what he said.
Mhm.
Yeah. So again, right? I don't appreciating what America became was not as obvious as it is today then. There were some people who saw it, and I think Nkrumah saw it partly because he had the closest relationships with them on a certain level, trying to be self-reliant. Yeah. He was surrounded by French-speaking African nations, yeah, that had readily bought into neocolonialism. Yeah. So I don't think it was as obvious. It was obvious on some levels. America is a colonizer and has always been a colonizer. Yes. But I believe that we can justifiably say that based upon the propaganda that America was putting out there about itself, it may not have been as obvious to everybody on the ground at the time that America would come in and basically defend Belgium and orchestrate the murder of Papa Patrice Lumumba.
okay, what do you think of this scenario? With hindsight, would you say the wise move would be, okay, Belgium, you're coming in, but hey, don't be so. I don't know. You find proper diplomatic words to say, okay, you're coming in, and you're saying, okay, where's the line drawn? And then you'd say to Russia, not to come in and push America or United Nations and Belgium out, but to come in and take a portion. You understand? So you're saying you're not pushing one group out.
No, I don't understand.
Okay.
Based upon the
That
dynamics
kind
of
of
the time,
analysis.
What's the
Yeah.
angle?
I'm not sure that the hypothetical that you're trying to get to is analogous to the actual real circumstances. Remember,
Exactly.
this is the height of the Cold War. Yes, it's the height of the Cold War. So
Okay.
there's a certain level of intolerance in relation to, right? You have to remember that America is invading nations straight, based upon them having any relationship with Russia. At this time, they've got an entire embargo against Cuba, based upon its relationship with Russia. You know what I'm saying? This is the time just before leading up to the Vietnam War. So I don't know that there was much negotiation to be done along the lines that you're speaking of there. It doesn't seem to be that would be apparently the case. Under those
And the practicality of implementing that type of policy wouldn't have been suitable for the time. It's just not that kind of ball game.
At the same time, we have to contend with the sellouts that were in Congo itself. We have to contend with Moise Tshombe. We have to contend with Joseph Mobutu. We have to contend with Kasavubu. And the weaknesses within the Congolese leadership at the time, that were allegiant to white power, that were allegiant to America, that were allegiant to France, that were allegiant to Belgium. And so that this is a part of the problem as well. Like we want a lot of the time when we critique the leaders, we don't factor in the impact of betrayal. So we can critique
the circumstances itself. Yes.
Right. Right. A lot of betrayal went on. We forget, for example, that there were
Kwame Nkrumah.
There were at least 4 to 6. I can't remember the exact number. Attempts on the life of Kwame Nkrumah.
Correct.
Bombing attempts. That killed children. Bomb go off into the front Nkrumah and it killed Pitney around him. We have to bear these things in mind. These are aspects that are left out of the propaganda. They don't factor these things in. So when we get told that our leaders of yesteryear were not dealing with real issues, isn't Nkrumah not supposed to deal with the fact that the CIA is in his nation trying to assassinate him? Right? Is that not a real issue?
But wouldn't they be trying to assassinate him based on what you said before? Is that he's perceived, because of the propaganda, to be teaming up with their enemy? That is why they feel justified in trying to assassinate him, correct?
They wanted to assassinate him because he was trying to chart a course to a self-determined African political economy. The relationship with Russia was a part of the propaganda that was used to justify it. So you could say, you could attach him to Stalin, Soviet Russia, and I believe it was true to say that Nkrumah was closer to China than he was to Russia. But that's neither here nor there. The point I'm making is that they wanted, America at this time is interested in extending its economic power specifically on the African continent, and its allusions to support for anti-colonial movements was to create fertile ground for American corporations to go in and replace their big brothers and sisters in Europe. That's what America was on.
And to factor in as well, my brother, the political climate in America itself was highly anti-communistic, was highly in the McCarthy era, where everybody was accused of. Exactly. Everybody was accused of everybody and anybody. A superstar, a singer, an actor. You know what I mean? Any political activist that speak against America, you're marked, X by your mark. So I mean, you got to look at the whole spectrum in looking at even one situation like Ghana or one situation like Congo or even in Namibia. You have to look at the overall, even the global political and as well as the national politics in these individual imperialist countries, such as America. So it was a very difficult time, my brother. It's a challenging
What were
time,
black people doing
and
at that time in that
huh?
during that difficult period? Wasn't it true that Black America was coming together more strongly as well?
Of course,
That's
yeah.
another dynamics. It fits right in. It fits right in
Huh?
with the dynamics
Right
that
in.
the anti-colonial struggle, because they were domestically colonizing America, so
Of
they was
course.
going for their own liberation struggle. They call the civil rights struggle in
That
America.
was connected. That was connected to what was going on the African continent. Many
Yes,
of the brothers and sisters moved to Ghana, right, and so on and so. But remember, this is the
yes.
same period that Malcolm X was assassinated. This is the same period
Hmm.
that Martin Luther King was
Martin Luther
assassinated.
King,
This is the same period
Medgar
that
Evers.
Medgar Evers was assassinated. It's the same
Right.
period that Fred Hampton and Mark Clark was assassinated. It's the same period
Yes.
that the American government flooded the black community to kill the Panthers and the Black Power movement with drugs and guns.
Hmm.
Yeah, right. So you know what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
the attack took place on all levels. It's the
All
same period. Yeah,
Right.
that
Exactly.
Walter Rodney was assassinated. It's the same period that the American government
Mhm.
again flooded Jamaica, yes, and other parts of the Caribbean with
Yes.
drugs and
So
guns,
pro.
right?
And later on in Grenada with Morris Bishop. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's the thing there. So I'm saying that again,
And you
key
can't leave
word
out Cuba. You can't leave out Cuba. You know, that's a big part of the puzzle.
the amount of
You know.
assassination attempts against Castro and what was going on down
Yeah.
there. So the reality is that the key word today is nuance, yeah. And what you're not gonna
Yes.
get right from the people that promote this idea that those leaders were not dealing with real issues, you're not gonna get this nuance, yeah. Because what they want to do, right? What they want to do. And this is why we have to challenge the propaganda. And I'm challenging my brothers and sisters who are nationalists like myself, yeah, to not be agents of this propaganda. Yeah, we can't be agents of this propaganda. Yeah.
Okay, let me challenge you this. What is the counter?
One second. I'm coming to you, right? Because the trick is to defend white power and hide the hand of the white man, yes, in the sabotage against these nations and these movements and these leaders, brothers and sisters. And the only person, the only people that benefit from investment in that narrative is the Bakra, the Mzungu, the Oibo, the Obruni, the Mundele. It's only them. I nah critique. I'll come back to that. Go ahead, Mr. IC3. Go ahead.
Okay, what do you think of this then? So, from listening to what you were both saying, it seems like the propaganda was that America's saying, "Listen, are you with us or you're on our side? Are you willing to defend our way of life?"
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
And Russia was doing the same thing. Yeah, Russia was doing the same thing. Let's not get it twisted. Russia wanted to extend its influence as well and wanted people on its side. It just so happened to be less hostile than the Americans were at that time. Yeah.
Right.
So So if you follow what I'm saying, go ahead.
All right. Okay. So what would you, Brother Delani, and you, Shakara, say would be the correct counter propaganda? Don't go into operations, just the propaganda. What would be the most effective counter propaganda that would be to the benefit of
the ancestors did it. The
Black
ancestors did it.
and Black America at that time?
Again, I see free.
I was going to say that.
I don't want to answer your question as though the ancestors never did it. They did. The correct counter propaganda was to identify, define, and explain neocolonialism, right? To understand, to get our people to understand we've come out of this phase of colonialism, but as the Kenya Land and Freedom Army and our brothers and sisters in Eastern and Southern Africa began to say, not yet Uhuru. We are not yet free. Yes, there is more work to be done here. And there's more work to be done, particularly in the face of the influx of a new form of colonialism, neocolonialism. Yes, the propaganda that we had to put out was to identify that system on the intellectual level and organize our people to challenge it. The problem that we had was the fact that not enough of our people and our movements took up the call as urgently as we needed to represent the kind of political, economic, military, cultural power that we would have needed to at that time to withstand the influx. Yeah, the analysis was correct. Yes, the critiques of America and Britain and France and neocolonialism were all there, right? We cannot claim that the critiques weren't there. Some of the critiques were flawed. Yeah. Some of the critiques had needed tweaking, and some of the implementation of the programs also needed tweaking. But the basic analysis that we needed to identify the devil was there. What we lacked was the critical mass.
Yes, and that is that's see when our brother was talking, and you know, the thing that when you formulate an analysis, you have to understand that it's never so gray, black and white. It never so start where it's either one way or the other way. There's nuances, and an accurate political analysis. You have to take in consideration all the factors, because there's a lot of variables that are constantly moving. You know what I'm saying? So there will be contradiction in our relationship with Russia.
100%.
But there's also contradiction with our relationship with the West. The West is still playing a role, playing the fox.
Right. And the point is that those who are promoting the those revolutionary leaders propaganda today are doing so in the interest of white power in the West. Yeah?
That is correct. That is correct.
Particularly in African self-determination, sovereignty, and autonomy. What they want to do, because even in the sister that did that video, yeah, she spoke about the fact that of these leaders convincing the people them to get into relationships with Russia and China. Yeah, Russia and China today, to varying different degrees, yeah, are capitalist nations, right? But they are the biggest bastions that represent a challenge to the economic hegemony of the West. And so, to the degree that the friendliness of Russia and China in this time represents a threat to America in particular, there's a propaganda that comes that seeks to convince us now that America is in fact our friend, not Russia and China. Me a Garvey, you know. Garvey, I tell we say, don't believe that if Japan or China or Russia get control of the world, that they will treat you any better or any differently than the white people in Europe. But we are not going to cost Russia in defense of America. When we cost Russia, we're going to do so in defense of African people. Well, if we cost China, we're not going to do so in defense of Britain. When we cost China, we're going to cost China in defense of African people. We are not going to be pawns and agents of white power in America and Britain for the sake of levying a critique against China. That's foolishness. And Russia, nonsense that. We're not into no Cold War dynamic. You can't casual way in a one polar to the next polar. We fire for them dynamic there. Yeah, we're not in them something.
So effectively turn us into pawn on the chess game. We can't allow ourselves to become pawns.
Them thing there. And somehow no, this is the problem. Somehow no, is happy with your pawn status. Yeah, we're not happy. We don't know pawn status on the chessboard. Somehow no love it. Yeah, someone love on no head up America.
They become willing accomplice.
Yeah, and
willing accomplice.
And France backside. Someone love that. We fire for them thing there, and that is why. Yeah, when we talk about Garvey and Nkrumah and Sankara and them people there, because Sankara say he who feed you control you. Yeah, and mash up French neocolonialism. And I don't like that because I don't love white people. Right?
Okay.
And that's the thing there. Fire. Go
That's
ahead.
true, my brother. True. Ashe. Ashe.
Okay. Tell me if I'm wrong. It appears to me that the resistance was against neocolonialism or capitalism or socialism, but the resistance was not using racial language. Would I be correct in saying that African resistance against the West was against colonialism, capitalism, socialism, and all these other isms, but they weren't using racial language?
Can I take that? Can I take that question?
Go ahead.
Just to add to that, saying that at that time it was about liberation. It was about freedom or oppression and exploitation. It's the liberation movement. You know what I'm saying? It was not so much a racial movement on the ground, but even though the race played a great part in it, because the oppressor of our nations across Africa were Europeans, and in North Africa, the Arabs. So it have a racial component to the movement. But in the political dynamics, in the articulation, it was about economic, land freedom. It's about justice, what is correct for the people on the ground, self-determination, sovereignty.
Yeah.
That was the language. That was the language. You know what I'm saying? But anti-racism is definitely a component, especially dealing with the global context, dealing with our brothers in the Caribbean, so-called Caribbean, in America, in Europe. You know what I'm saying? Because millions of our people are stuck in these colonial domiciles across the world. So the racial component were always there, but in the formulation of the the ideological language, you wouldn't hear it be pushed as if we are pushing a black thing on the battlefield. We are pushing more of a independent, anti-colonial sovereignty movement on the ground to reclaim our land. You don't see it. So if the Europeans send down white man come, if he send down black troops come, everybody there and alive. You don't see it. According to the situation.
That is the weak point. That's the point I'm making. That is why Africa failed, because they don't get racial.
Hold on, I see free. There's variations in the answer to this question.
That's correct.
You will find in places like South Africa, Namibia,
yes,
Zimbabwe,
yes,
Kenya. The language of race and culture was very strong. Remember, I said Steve Biko was a leader within the Black consciousness movement in South Africa. That was not confined to the borders of South Africa, but was a Southern African movement. Yeah, so you would find elements of it in Namibia and Botswana and all them things there. The Kenya Land and Freedom Army, the so-called Mau Mau, was all about that black talk. Yeah. And then you have other movements about the place that would do that. I think, as I've already said, one of the casualties of the strong Marxist allegiance was on the race question. That Brother Delany identified that there was an anti-racist thing, but for many, including people like Julius Nyerere, anti-racism detrimentally affected the extent to which they would promote and push specifically African assertiveness, if that makes sense. Yeah, because it was about workers, right? Just what I'm saying, and
that could have been considered a weakness,
right? Definitely, right. So what happened is, and to a significant degree, some of that was because you're dealing with Africa, and so by default, the overwhelming majority of the people are black and are African.
Are black. That's correct. That's a very important piece of information there. Because,
You know what I'm
I
saying?
mean, I'll stick a pin there for a moment there, Shakara, because
Mhm,
many Africans in the diaspora, they're hesitant to grasp the significance of being in a black world
mhm,
where the vast majority is black. So the thinking is going to be slightly nuanced, slightly different
mhm.
than when you're exposed to whiteness on a daily basis. You know, but go continue, my brother.
Yeah. So the so I think it was taken for granted that based upon
Hmm.
demographics that people understood the black thing and the African thing intuitively, and that turned out not
Hmm.
necessarily to be the case. Yeah, in all
That's correct.
circumstances, right? So I think that there is I think I've already mentioned this earlier when during brother Kohani's you know
Hmm.
explanations and what he brought to the conversation earlier. So yeah, we would have no
Hmm.
disagreement on the fact that there are many instances in which the allegiance to class over race represented a weakness or gave birth to a weakness within political understanding. And that when we say class now, we're not talking about the biology, we're also talking about the cultural, yeah, in that regard as well. But it would be untrue to say that generally the movements on the continent didn't deal with it. There are instances and examples of them doing
Hmm.
so, and
Yeah,
instances of
particularly in South
others.
Africa. Mhm.
Right, you know what I'm saying? And that was
Mhm.
partly to do with the special dynamics in South Africa. You know what I'm saying? The
Mhm.
other side to this, though, um, the other side to this is the fact that very quickly what happened on the African continent is that the white power structure imposed an elite, yeah, in the government that were working in its interest. And so many of the movements now began to focus on fighting that elite, yes, as
Which look like them, which look like
which
them.
look
So
which
you know,
literally look like them,
yeah,
right? You know what I'm saying? Which
yeah,
is the dynamic
exactly.
that we have to face. Yeah. Now there's nothing. The nationalist and racial analysis caters for that too, but I'm just saying that we have to look at those dynamics as well, and why people began to de-emphasize the race question, partly because of the fact that the people them that they began to fight look like
And
them.
we're in the same situation right now, isn't it? There's nothing's changed. It's the same
No,
game that we do at
Because
puppet.
and the imperialist
right,
force was actually funding our own people to kill our own people.
right,
You
you know.
understand? So yeah, you know, on the battlefield, you'll be looking at your own brother.
100%. Which you know, again,
Mm.
it like it brings us to the beginning of what we were talking about, right? In the sense of these are
Mhm.
problems that we are yet to solve. Yet the propaganda is designed to have us not properly understand, negate, and not feel that we need to. So when you shroud the entire period in them, it never worked, them just fail, yeah, they never do nothing, right? It doesn't, it doesn't give future generations the idea that there is something of value to study here. Yeah. That's what I'm saying, you know. I'm not saying that everything Nkrumah did and said was 100% right and exact. I'm not saying that everything that Patrice Lumumba did was 100% right and exact. That everything that Nyerere did was 100% right and exact. I'm not even saying that everything that Papa Garvey did was 100% right and exact. What I am saying is that there are things of value there. Yes,
That is
and the
correct.
propaganda is designed to negate the idea that there's anything of
And
value there.
and turn
That
us away
all
from
that
and turn us
that
away from
and
that
turn us
tradition.
away from that tradition for the sake of securing intellects that pledge allegiance to white power. That says that anything of value is to be found in the political and economic legacy of Ronald Reagan and Maggie Thatcher and Lyndon B. Johnson
Hmm.
and Winston Churchill and
Yes.
George Washington and Thomas Jefferson.
Hmm.
Yes, and de Gaulle
Yes.
in France and Mitterrand
Hmm.
in
I,
France. Yeah, that is
Kennedy.
what the propaganda is designed to produce.
So,
And
so
Kennedy,
would you?
That's correct.
that's a good addition. And Kennedy, don't forget Kennedy. Yeah,
So would
good
you?
one.
Yeah, I
So would
mentioned
you?
him.
Would you both agree with me then? Would you both agree with me that it's a complete waste of time to talk about capitalism, socialism. We should just focus on the root problem, which is white supremacy, because it's white supremacy in capitalism,
On
white
the
supremacy in
contrary,
communism.
on the contrary, on the
I
contrary,
disagree.
my brother, it is very valuable. It's very valuable. It's very important that we talk about capitalism and socialism, and we talk about our own African agency, our own African vision of what society, a future society could be. We have Mahat, we have Ubuntu. We can forge our own way, our own African way, our own African economy, our own African political system, our own African educational system that can be as effective and as powerful to rival any systems in the world.
Okay, let me challenge you on that.
I think.
I would
Sorry,
say
sorry.
you cannot. Go on.
Sorry, Mr. IC3. Let me ask you a question. When you say we shouldn't talk about capitalism and socialism, we should just talk about white power. Using that
Yeah.
framework, because we're here, right? I've been saying white power for the entire conversation. Yeah. So how is it that you would explain and what white power is, or how would you define white power?
Right. Yes. So therefore, the focus, because I find in a lot of discussions that people say, "Oh, well, capitalism would be the better way," and all this discussion. But if you focus on white supremacy and finance and banking, it overrides all of those things. So just by getting people to understand how white supremacy works and how it functions, they would not get mystified in fighting over whether to use democracy or capital, all these other isms. All of the white supremacists use all of various types of isms to push white supremacy. That's the fundamental.
No, I don't have a problem with that in the broad sense. But when I'm asking you how you define it, you notice that the first thing that you went to was finance and banking.
Yeah.
You know that to say finance and
Capitalism.
banking is say capitalism. You do realize that, right? Right.
Yes.
The financial system that is dominant today, and the banking system operates within the system of capital is an instrument of the capitalist system. So the point I'm making is that
it's an instrument of white supremacy. Capitalism is downstream.
Capitalism is an expression of white supremacy. So we're not denying that. The point I'm making is that you don't have to negate a conversation on capitalism and communism in order to talk about white power. You simply talk about capitalism and communism in the context of white power. Yeah.
Okay.
As
I will challenge you on that.
Power. Right. So hold on.
It's not isolated. It's not isolated.
For example, from a Garveyite nationalist perspective, I would argue that white power manifested itself in the Communist International. Yeah. To a significant degree. Right. Yeah. Even those who were allegiant to it came to that conclusion. Read George Padmore. Yeah. All right. That's one argument. But white power, as it manifested in the United States empire, was different. Yeah, it had its different character. And so in order to identify those different characteristics, you're going to use different terminologies. And the terminologies that we're using come from how those systems define themselves. Yeah? You understand what I mean? So we're not compromising a conversation on white power by identifying the systematic nature of white power in terms of the language that we're using. It would be like saying, can we discuss white power without discussing military tactics? Yeah, no, you can't, right? Just what I'm saying. And if you identify specific military tactics that are used by white power structure, are you negating a discussion on white power in the macro? No, you're not. You're just identifying specific ways.
And also, and I would add that even in the discussion of white supremacy and white power, it doesn't negate us doing business or relationship with white people, because we have to evaluate our relationship based on our experience with specific white power, because it's not like there's a monolithic of white people or white power. As Shakara mentioned with the dichotomy with Russia and the West. There's difference of interest, there's conflicts of interest there, and we have a different relationship with Russia that we have had with the Western world, particularly our enslavement and our colonization.
And I think it will be, and I think divide and conquer is a wise tactic to use in such regards, right? In those
Yes.
circumstances, another Garvey principle. So yeah, we're not compromising anything by identifying names of systems. Now, where it does become a problem is when we say, well, it's not the people, it's the system, as though people and systems can be divorced from each other, right? That's where it
Right.
becomes a problem.
Right. Yeah. So we got to be honest about it, because
Right.
Okay.
they feel as they're superior to black people, no matter where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's out of ignorance or whether it's intentional,
Right.
that's not here and not there. But that's the reality
Brothers
when
and
you come
sisters,
face to face with these people.
Go on.
one second, my brothers. I'm going to be wrapping up the show soon, so this is your last chance, yeah, to come through. Click the link or ask a question in the chat. Yeah, we're not stay here much longer.
Yeah.
Even if you come through right now, we're not going to stay much longer. Yeah, so feel
And,
free
and
to do that right about now.
and I can also wrap up because I got some domestic duty. I got to read some books with two little twin before we go bed. So let me just say my parting word by saying this is a very is it okay, Shakara? You want to say something
No.
before
Go ahead.
I kind of
I want to address you, brother
land,
Delani.
land, land?
I wanted to address something you said.
Go ahead, go ahead,
Right. The impression
go
you've
ahead,
given
go ahead.
me that that Black Africans can build their own alternative system. I would challenge that. I would say that Africa cannot build without the neutralization of white supremacy. You got to, when you neutralize white
Well, I
supremacy,
disagree.
then you can construct. Then you're free
I
to
disagree. I
construct.
disagree.
I know you disagree, but there's a big
I
difference there.
disagree. I
Yeah.
disagree. Yeah. Because what that would say is that until we defeat white supremacy, we cannot move, and
Correct.
that's going to be. I don't think
That's right.
that's not going to be the reality, because
It
no,
is.
because reality is that we're still moving. No, hold on, brother. The reality is we're still building, we're still constructing, we're still liberating ourselves, even as we speak. So
No.
the liberation and the building never stop, and the creation of an African personality and peoplehood that never stops. That is ongoing. Even though it's distorted, even though it's mangled, even though it's been abused, it's still moving forward. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna build regardless, in spite of white supremacy. You know what I'm saying? I know it may be philosophical, but it's practically on the ground. The very fact that we have leaders and people and institutions that's building on the ground in Africa that realize that they have to reclaim African sovereignty. That's going to be done. There's
I
no
think
question. I mean,
I think
to be honest with you, there is no alternative to doing that.
there really isn't. I think that we need to understand that our current state of organization is not conducive to neutralize white supremacy. So that presupposes the idea that a certain level of building is going to need to be done in order for us to get to the point whereby we have amassed the kind of power that it takes to be able to achieve that particular goal of neutralizing white supremacy. Yeah. So that the neutralization of white supremacy is not just going to happen
Yeah,
without effort, on our part,
right.
and us growing a certain level and building to a certain level of organization. That's what we have to understand. All right,
Yeah,
my brother. I'm gonna wrap up the show here. So I give thanks for a good conversation.
yeah, man.
So
It's indeed. I enjoy these type of probing of our history and the experience of our ancestors. 'Cause I think it is important that we learn from our ancestors. This is practical
absolutely.
learning from our ancestors. And
Let Brother Delany drop off. Brother Delany drop off the reggae. All right, we'll see if he's able to come back. We'll give him a last speak. I see free. Chewy was getting a last speak. If you want one, feel free to take it now.
Yeah. So I think what's powerful is the word nuances. What are the nuances? And as you said, the propaganda. 2 words: the propaganda, because the propaganda is there to deal with the nuances. That's the way you shape the propaganda to be able to cover those nuances and to deal with them, and that's what the propaganda does. And this building, what does it mean to build? Where I clash with Delani, I get this is my position. I believe that the white supremacists have within their museums, with all the information, they have information that is necessary for the reconstruction of black African mind. So we have to. So by focusing on the nullification of white supremacy, you then liberate the materials needed for the construction or the reconstruction of the black African world. Rather than, so if we've got limited resources, some of us will be saying, like Delani, where I disagree with him, we're on the same table, he would be saying, the resources we have, we need to use it to build something. And then I would say, no, those same resources have to be used to counter white supremacy in order to liberate the resources to build. So it sounds similar. It goes back to what you're saying, the nuances, but it's very different, because then you have where you have places in America where they built something separate from the white people, and then the white people came to destroy what the black people had built. So therefore, you're not trying to find a corner, a safe corner in this world where the white people won't come and mess up with what you're doing. You're starting from the foundation that there is no safe place in the world. So therefore, the focus is the nullification and liberation of materials needed to construct. So the construction is not you over here trying to run away from the white people and find a safe corner to do what you're doing. No, you have to head straight for the white supremacists themselves. And then in that effective countering of white supremacy, materials become available as a result of the effectiveness of your counter white supremacist activity. Does that make sense? Can you see the
It does make sense. I disagree with you, but we're not going to resolve that problem today.
Okay, yeah. Well, I was just telling you on that. Yes, that's right. That's the conversation.
I see. Free. Give thanks for the conversation. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and no doubt we'll see you again soon.
Okay.
All right, brothers and sisters. That was Mr. IC3. Brother Delani was also in the building. In internet connection popped down. So in have to drop off. So, but give thanks, Brother Delani, for coming through. Give thanks to all listeners, viewers, commenters, and all of these things. Good conversation today, brothers and sisters. We've been discussing the propaganda, news media. That's what we discussed today, brothers and sisters. The propaganda against our more revolutionary movements. And the propaganda that tells us that there's nothing, for us to find of worth in the legacy of Sajjah, Kwame Nkrumah. And there's nothing of worth for us to find in the legacy of Steve Biko. And there's nothing of worth for us to find in the legacy of Papa Patrice Lumumba. And there's nothing of worth for us to find in the legacy of Namzamo, Madikizela, Winnie Mandela. And there's nothing of worth for us to find in the legacy of Mama Wangari Maathai. Yes, brothers and sisters, we've been challenging that propaganda today. And I hope that ones and ones have learned something from it. There's much more to get into, brothers and sisters. There's much more to get into in relation to these topics, But really what I was highlighting was the extent to which propaganda is being used. My brother, I'm wrapping up the show now, my brother. I don't know. All right, I'm gonna give you a 5 minutes. Greetings, bro.
Greetings. Checking in from Jacksonville.
Blessings. Good to have you
I'm
on.
doing all right. I'm doing all right. Just checking in from USA. I'm in Florida, the Caribbean Key right here. No,
Go
I'm
ahead.
happy to I'm no, I'm happy to be on. I don't get on a lot of platforms. I got a lot to say, but now we're still building. I don't know if you remember. I'm trying to build a UNIA type forum, like a secretariat with the Caribbean and Haiti, and
Yes,
a
sir.
lot of Amos Wilson ideas over the
Yes,
years.
sir. Yes, sir.
I don't know if you remember, but Asar Imhotep even put out a book about Asar Imhotep, the African American identity, and it was Amos Wilson based, and somehow it got flipped into ADOS and FBA, and people just took our ideas and ran with it, and it's been hard organizing over the past 5 years, but we're having some breakthroughs. But it's like frustrating to see that ideas that came from the Pan African community get flipped upside down. Like nobody makes the connection in America, but we're having some breakthroughs. People discussing things like Bacala and Asar Imhotep and Amos Wilson's identity, but it's hard, it's treacherous, but we're still building. We still got some links to Haiti and the decolonizing the Caribbean. But if something happened in Senegal with the president actually being related to one of the organizers here, and nobody really knew, but we have an invitation to travel to Senegal by the grassroots leaders. There's some sort of disagreement with the politics versus grassroots and neighborhood. UNIA being in the neighborhood community type thing. So they have connection to the Sahel Alliance, like Haiti. So there's a language barrier, but I'm trying to see if I can link with Senegal and Guinea. They have sub-regional organizations, the Senegalese States, River States Union and the Mono River Union. They were supposed to be federations because of politics. They haven't pushed it like the Sahel Alliance. But they have things that are like the UNIA, and we're going to try and get over there and organize. But things are going good as far as I can tell. So that's just, that's what I want to say.
All right, give thanks, my brother. No doubt you can come through again and explain some of that in more detail. All right.
All right.
Give thanks, my brother. Blessings. All right, brothers and sisters. That was Brother Chizoro, organizer over there, Jacksonville, Florida. So we give thanks for his presence on the platform, brothers and sisters. So as he was wrapping up, so I was just discussing the idea that there's nothing of value to be found in the legacy of our ancestors based upon the propaganda. And so that propaganda is designed specifically for the purpose of taking us off our historical center, that we begin to try and solve the problems set by Europeans for Europeans rather than the problems set by Africans for us to solve according to the interests of our own people. And so there's a lot of narratives at the moment that are designed for that purpose. And so I was analyzing that in today's world. And we just need to be aware of it. Yeah, we're gonna have to do justice to the legacies of our ancestors. Agree or disagree with them, we need to do justice to their legacies. Yeah, put their legacies into proper context and not become witting or unwitting agents of dominant white power in today's world. I want to remind you about some things while going coming up on gotkushTV, brothers and sisters. We want to talk about Fear of a Black Republic, which is our interview with Dr. Leslie Alexander, which is being released this coming Friday, the 28th of June, from 8 p.m. UK time, which is 3 p.m. Eastern time for those across the water. We also have Elder Cecil Gutsmore coming to us on the 11th of July from 7 p.m. BST with Is Revolutionary Pan-Africanism the Practice for African Liberation Now? And this particular conversation relates to the conversation that we were having today, and we're going to turn this into a commemoration for the 6th Pan-African Congress, which took place in June of 1974. Brothers and sisters. But every time Elder Cecil comes through, it's a plenty to learn in Nagaguan. So we encourage you to come through for that session. And on the 17th of Messiah, it is Drums of Messiah. Bring your drum and come. Bring your shekere, your agogoro. Not agogoro. Yeah, agogo. Agogo, that's something different. Yeah, agogo, your umbila, your balafon, any percussion. You want to bring a trumpet, bring a trumpet. You want to bring a horn, bring a horn. And most importantly, bring yourself and your dancing feet. We're going to lick some drum in honor of the Prophet Marcus Messiah Garvey on his birthday, the 17th of Messiah, over there in Windrush Square, Brixton, SW21JQ, brothers and sisters. We encourage you to come true. And this is happening internationally around this time. So 12 p.m. Central Time is when we're scheduled to kick off, which is corresponds to about 6 p.m. UK time at that time. And so anywhere you are in the world, anywhere you are in the world, and you want to organize a drums of Messiah, feel free to let us know and we'll add your thing to the promotion. And once we have got all of the different cities and in different countries in the world that are going to be organizing along these lines, we'll share that too. So at the moment, I know that Washington, D.C. is on board, and I know that Freetown, Sierra Leone is on board, and so we'll see how it goes elsewhere. But Drums of Messiah, 17th of Messiah, August, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. as far as the London is concerned. If you're there Birmingham, if you're there Birmingham, feel free for come down. If you're there Manchester, come down. You know what I'm saying? If you're there Liverpool and Newcastle, if you're there Glasgow, come down, to London on the 17th of Messiah for the Drums of Messiah, or organize one in your own city. We'll share that too, brothers and sisters. And once again, just a reminder, this coming Friday, Fear of a Black Republic interview with Dr. Leslie Alexander. Ononowa Mr. Wanya. Ononowa Mr. Wanya. And with that, brothers and sisters, we say, Tendai Mwale be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe. Kodzai Muzum Mukuro. We give praises unto our great ancestors. Abibi Tumi. Abibi Fahodi, African power and African liberation for all African people. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.
New era, new transition. Greetings, this is Shakara, and it's been an honor serving you as director of gotkushTV. Over the past few years, we've brought you the pilot of the Black Root Economic Show, many seasons of Wordsmith, The Insight, and the ever-popular Decipher. We have covered community events and even hosted a few of our own, including Blacktricity, as a part of the official Ghana Beyond the Return roster. We also kept you company throughout lockdown with the Quarantine Convo. After a brief hiatus, we came back with our regular weekly interactive live show, Zivanai, keeping you up to date with current events around the Black world, from UK to Senegal to Haiti and beyond. It is our aim to continue to develop as a premier Black media institution, and for that reason, we have a special announcement. Introducing Kimbunga Media. Between the 10th of June and the 17th of Messiah, August, we will be transitioning to a new name and institution, Kimbunga Media. In the beautiful Kiswahili language, Kimbunga means whirlwind.
Look for me in a whirlwind or a storm. Look for me all around you. For with God's grace, I shall come back with countless millions of black men and women who have died in America, those who have died in the West Indies, and those who have died in Africa, to aid you in the fight for liberty, freedom, and life.
Our name symbolizes our aim to take the media landscape by storm, developing high quality, impactful, geopolitical and cultural content aimed at empowering African people, bringing knowledge, information, inspiration and analysis from an unapologetically Pan-African, universal African nationalist and African-centered perspective. So, what can you expect? We are gradually developing a full spectrum of flagship shows and presenters, but in the immediate right here now, over the next couple of years, we have two major aims in bringing you our flagship shows. One, the return of Kush Communiversity, bringing you high-level scholarship in all areas of people activity, featuring luminaries from across the Black world. And two, the production of the full first season of the new and improved Ujamaa Black Root Economic Show. While we encourage you to develop and support Black businesses, this show aims to raise our awareness of the political economy of today's world, and popularize new solution paradigms in political economy among African people. Alongside all this, we will continue to bring you Zivanai, Jaliba, the Afrocentric perspective, All Eyes on Africa, Ghana, Democracy Under Fire, the Revolutionary Minds team with that artistic, ancestral energy, and as things grow and develop, there'll be plenty more. We also have plans to host live events and film screenings, so stay tuned for more information on that. So what can you do? Continue to support us by watching, liking, sharing and commenting on our content. Be sure to follow us on all social media, and if you are so moved, join our Patreon community. We'll be sharing flagship shows exclusively with our Patreon community before general release and granting you discounts to events and future screenings. Right now, if you become a Patreon, you will have access to the pilot for the Black Group Economic Show and all installments of last year's Black History Month series, Sankofa, The Future of Black History. At some point, we'll be engaging in community crowdfunding towards the production of the new and improved Ujamaa Black Group Economic Show, complete with offerings and perks for those who choose to invest in us. Look out for the launch, and we thank you in advance for your support. Any questions, feel free to hit us up in the comment section and we'll be sure to address. We look forward to you joining us for this new phase of our development. Stay tuned as we bring you Kimbunga Media.
Black people, we've got to fight. Jean Petro, you see us. Oguo, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, Black people, we've got to fight. Zumbi, you see us. Oh, whoa, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, Black people, we've got to fight. Yes, Santa, why you see us? Oh, whoa, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh, Black people, we've got to fight. Bookman, you see us. Oh, whoa, we've got to fight. Let's go fight. Oh,
we have to have the courage to construct our own reality. And that's what Garvey was talking about. Because he said he looked around, he didn't see what he thought should be there, and so what did he do? He didn't get depressed about it. He didn't get defeated about it. He said, I'm going to build the government that we need to have. Ooh, where do you get that kind of boldness from? So we got to go all the way back to Garvey, who said he would come again. He said he would be here with us, no matter how long it took. And I'm telling you that the way he comes back is in our work. Not honoring him in words, pomp, and all of that stuff, but honoring him through doing what he did. How many of us have the courage to do that? The man took on the world for us and in our name. And then we come to Sodai. And in this presentation of the paradigm, I'm going to make this like what it is we want to reach. So Sodai is translated clear word in Dogana language. And I use it to mean that here we gain understanding. This is sight with understanding. And it is seeing beyond what just we think we see with this physical thing. It's seeing beyond that. And so we gain vision, because that's what vision is. With vision, you've got to be able to use the imagination informed by the African spirit. And Brother Amos, who I work very closely with, was a good friend of mine. He taught me, and he would talk about imagination. Image a nation. Do you see? But that's got to be part of vision. To be a visionary, you got to see beyond this box here. You got to see beyond the ma'afa. You got to see what is it that our people rightfully should have, and that's what Garvey did. Garvey had a vision.